Hello and welcome to Connected episode 294. It's made possible this week by our sponsors, Pingdom and Hover. My name is Stephen Hackett and I'm joined by Mr. Federico Vitici.
Hello, what's up?
What's up? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's we're right in the curve of spring going into summer, which is like a really nice time. It's going to be really hot soon, but today's very nice.
Hi.
Oh my God, it's so
I'm
rude
here.
lately.
I can't accept a whole conversation to begin before.
You used to be a pretty patient, polite
Not anymore.
English boy.
Not anymore.
What happened
In this
to you?
economy? No, I'm not patient anymore.
You got to stop that joke. Just got to stop it.
It's a good joke.
I am not familiar with this joke. What's the joke?
Don't worry about it. I'll explain it to you when you're older.
Okay. Yeah, I don't care. I've already forgotten about it.
Follow up.
What are you doing?
I'm moving along.
Stop.
What
Stop.
do you have at
Myke,
this point in the show?
Myke, how are you? I'm trying to be
good.
nice.
I'm good.
You crashed my intro.
I'm impatient. We've established this.
Yeah, you're very feisty, but you doing okay?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Follow up. Bridge had a software, firmware situation update that came out, I think basically right after we recorded last week. Federico, you have one of these, the Bridge Keyboard Pro Plus Pro with trackpad. Did you do this update and did it make it better?
Yeah, I did, and it did not make it better. So took the keyboard and I connected it to the iPad. I downloaded the app from the App Store, and it's really the update process is relatively easy. You just got to follow a couple of on-screen instructions. And the update took a while, like a couple of minutes, just sitting there and watching this progress bar go. And after that, I thought, well, the app is saying that the keyboard is updated, so I should be ready to use it again. And I did notice that maybe the pointer is a little bit faster in moving on screen and less jittery than before. However, the update made it worse in a bunch of ways. And I think Bridge is already working on an update, on a second update. So maybe
You got to update the update.
We'll talk about the update to the update in a future episode. But basically, this version, which I think I'm free to talk about because it's up on the App Store. So context menus, like now when you right click, I get this weird flashing animation before the context menu comes up. And I sent you guys a video. You basically see like the context menu pop up for a fraction of a second and then pop up again, like it flashes once on screen before you actually see the menu. It's very visually strange. And also the second issue, which Jason Snell also mentioned is in his review on 6 Colors, that when using the Bridge Pro Plus, and if you scroll to the bottom of a page of any application on your iPad, you basically see this phantom content appear at the bottom of a page.
Oh, no.
That did not get resolved. And in fact, even after the update, I now see this phantom empty content at the bottom of Safari even. So even if I go to Mac Stories and I scroll to the bottom of the page, instead of the footer, I see this like huge empty area. That's not supposed to happen. So, and it happens in notes, it happens in settings, it happens everywhere.
So, real-time follow-up, Federico, if you will allow me to do some at this stage. The Bridge say that they will have another update later this week with huge improvements to the menu and web page quote-unquote bounce.
Okay, where is this from? Twitter?
Yeah, from the Bridge Twitter account. So, I guess we'll be reporting again next week, I suppose.
Okay. All right. So perfect. And really just using this again for 10 minutes made me realize how even if the update is perfect, right? Even if scrolling becomes super smooth and fluid and they get rid of these flashing animations and they get rid of the phantom content at the bottom of a page, I've just gotten so used to the multi-touch gestures on the Magic Keyboard. I really struggle to see myself going back to the Bridge keyboard without the three-finger swipe gesture to move between apps and use multitasking and control multitasking from the trackpad. Just using the trackpad for scrolling is not enough anymore for me, because the Magic Keyboard, the Magic Trackpad before and the Magic Keyboard now have spoiled me, and now I always want that kind of experience.
No one's going to switch from a Magic Keyboard to the Bridge keyboard. Like, I don't think anyone is even suggesting or expecting that, but it's more about, like, if Bridge can make this product better than it currently is within the constraints that they have available to them, it just means that there is another player in the space, right? Mm-hmm. With a cheaper product, which some people may prefer in some other ways, and then they just, there's a functionality they get in return of not having the gestures or whatever, right? But the problem is, right now, they can't get the basics right for whatever reason. I think a lot of the reasons is kind of just nothing they could do, even if they wanted to, because of the fact that they made this product before the Magic Keyboard and before iPadOS 13.4. But it's a shame that it's still like new problems rather than fixing the old ones.
Yeah. So it's unfortunate. We'll see how things progress with the updates, but so far still problematic. And at least it's good to know that they are very much aware of the issues and they're continuing to work on fixing them.
Up next, Microsoft has added what 9to5 Mac called split view, but it's actually multi-window support.
And also what Mac Rumors called split view, which makes me wonder if that's why the 9to5 Mac report said split view.
So let me ask you, what is worse?
Okay.
People who call multi-window split view or people who call shortcuts Siri shortcuts?
People that call multi-window split view. That's just completely wrong.
I gotta agree with you.
Well, but basically...
Okay. What's worse?
Okay, here we go.
People who call multi-window split view or people who call iPhone and iPad apps by their names, but they also append .app to the end of the name. So like people who in 2020 say things like shortcuts.app.
I still think the split view one, because there are some of the .apps that you kind of have to do sometimes, like mail, because the word.
But you don't have to say
or music.
You don't have to say
or Apple Notes.
You don't have to say that.
It's not Apple Notes.
You can say Apple Notes.
It's just Notes.
You don't have to. You don't have to say Apple Notes.app.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's better to say Apple Mail than to say Mail.app, but I still think it's worse to say split view, because like. All of these
different features.
The things that you're mentioning, they're just like adaptations of the phrase or how things used to be called. But you're right, this isn't split view. This is multi-window. Split view only existed in one application, and that was Safari. But now they do multi-window, right? They don't do that split view thing anymore. It is multi-window because and again, it's like. If Word was still one application and they cut it down the middle inside of Word, then maybe you'd call it split view because they've created their own view inside of their application. But it's not that. It is multi-window support. It's two distinct windows of Word.
Also, because you can have multiple windows without necessarily using them in split view.
You can have multiple Word windows of multiple other apps, right? You could have two Word and two Notes pairings. But anyway, semantics aside, this can, like, coupled together with information from Craig Federighi's own mouth on App Stories, which congratulations again for having Craig on the show. People need to go listen to episode 162 of App Stories, where Federico interviewed Craig Federighi about the iPadOS cursor support stuff primarily. That was kind of the primary part of the discussion. But Craig mentioned during the episode about the fact that later on this year, kind of around the fall, that Microsoft would be implementing full trackpad support. And I get that, like, for some applications that were doing their own text rendering for legitimate reasons, they're going to need time. But it's good to hear that Word is doing this. All of these features made me think to myself, I haven't done this yet, but I'm planning it. What is Word's collaboration like now? The only reason we use Google Docs is because it has live real-time collaboration. But it doesn't appear that Google is really doing anything, right? Like, And even if they are working on both trackpad support and multi-window, which I'm sure that they maybe are somewhere, they're not being open about it, right? Like Microsoft is at least allowing it to be communicated or communicating themselves that they are implementing these features. So if Word's collaboration stuff is good now, and a lot of people have told me that it is, including the people in the chat right now, saying that there is a lot of that the features are basically the same, I think it might be worth looking into again, because I really want both multi-window and trackpad support in the application that I put show notes together in. And maybe Word is that app. I don't know.
Word.app.
Word.app.
That's what we're going to use.
Yep. $Word.app. That's how it's referred to.
Well, let us know how that goes if you find somebody to take you up on that. Federico, you have big news in the audio world.
Not really big news. News, but not necessarily big. Plex Amp. We mentioned this before. It's the new music utility by the Plex folks, and it's a dedicated music player for your Plex library. I got very excited when I saw in the changelog for this week's update to Plex Amp on iOS that they supported native DSD playback, and DSD is one of the high-resolution lossless file formats that I use for some of the albums in my music library. Most of them are in the FLAC format, but some of them are in DSD. I was very excited because, as we talked about before, my current solution for streaming high-resolution music and using my Sony Walkman as an external USB DAC for the iPad Pro is to use the beautiful and sometimes misunderstood Neutron music player for iPhone and iPad. There's an entire episode of Connected about this app that you should go listen to if you missed that segment. Still, I was very excited. I thought, oh, okay, finally I have a good-looking, very visually attractive utility to listen to music in its native file format while outputting that audio via USB to my external DAC. Sadly, DSD playback is only on device. So yes, you can listen to DSD and it will not transcode DSD to PCM, but it only happens on device. So if you're using the iPhone or iPad app, you will see DSD, but as soon as you connect a USB DAC, it goes back, as we talked about before, it downsamples everything to 48 kilohertz. And also, this is limited to DSD. So if you have anything higher than 48 kilohertz in your music library, if you have FLAC files of, say, 24-bit with 96 kilohertz bit rate, they will still get downsampled to 48 because that's just what Plex does. So literally, the only thing they've done is add in-app support for streaming DSD playback, for streaming DSD files. So yeah, Neutron is still king when it comes to taking your high-resolution music, leaving it untouched, and allowing you to output that music from an iPhone or an iPad to an external DAC via Lightning or USB-C. So Neutron, and after some visual customizations, because as we talked about before, Neutron has a lot of settings. After a bunch of customizations, it is passable. It's a passable, it's not, it doesn't make me want to throw my iPad out of the window anymore, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Also, Neutron gets frequent updates, not in the visual department, in the technical department, but at least it's very frequently updated. So shout out to the developer for working on it continuously.
I saw something interesting. I saw this being shared on Twitter today. It was a Reddit post, and I've confirmed it myself by looking at the show notes. And not the show notes, the update notes. Everything's a show note to me, Everything's a show, and they're all the notes. Procreate, the latest update for Procreate, allows for 2020 iPad Pro models to enable more layers in a project.
Ah, damn it! Now I got to update.
The iPad or or Procreate?
I got to update my iPad only because of this feature.
You are making a joke, but it's an interesting point that one of two things have happened. Like either A, you're able to, or B, Procreate has found a way to enable features for iPads that have more RAM in them. And
well, that's intriguing. They don't really need to find a way. But yes, they have made this decision, and it makes sense, right? All iPads in 2020 have 2 extra gigs of RAM, and I think it would be trickier for them to say, oh, you can have this feature, but only if you have this specific model of the 2018 iPad Pro. It could potentially be done in a very inelegant way by
they might struggle with app review for that, though.
They might struggle with app. It could be technically possible, I guess, to see which iPad model you have, and if they see the 1 terabyte storage, they could unlock certain functionalities. But I'm not sure how that would go with app review. So it makes sense to restrict that feature to the 2020 iPad Pros. I really don't think. Actually, no. I want to be optimistic and hope that we do not see any more of this, especially from Apple. But I may be wrong. And maybe if there's a new, if Apple makes Xcode or Final Cut or Logic or whatever for iPad, and they say some of these features are for the 2020 iPad Pro only, at that point, I will consider upgrading.
No, you will
but
upgrade.
So far,
you won't consider. We all know you, and that's fine, because that would make sense at that point, because there would be things you wouldn't be able to test.
No, because I don't use Logic, I don't use Final Cut. I don't want to be a YouTuber, and I don't want to edit my podcasts. So,
what about Xcode, though?
I'm not a developer.
But still.
I'm not a programmer. So,
okay.
What about shortcuts?
Folders for one. If you have 2020 iPad Pro, you can have folders.
First of all, I think you mean Siri shortcuts. And if Siri shortcuts gets exclusive features on the 2020 iPad Pro, then yes, I will get a new one.
I am still standing by the idea that I'm not alone in thinking, but I believe that all of the 2020 iPad Pros got the same RAM amount for a reason. And I think it is a reason of an application or applications upcoming that require it. So we will see, but I think that's the case. So. But this is just showing that it's things can be done. So if you have a 2020 iPad and you use Procreate, then congratulations.
We wanted to let people know that we have launched a Discord for Relay FM members. This is part of a larger emphasis on membership moving forward. The world is a uncertain place right now, and all businesses, including ours, have been affected. And we are really going to focus on producing more content for our members, making that a better and more fun experience. So if you go to relay.fm/forward, you can read something Myke and I wrote about this. If you're already a member, it's really easy to join the Discord. And if you're not a member, I would recommend signing up at relay.fm/membership, and you'll get directions on how to join the Discord, how to get access to all the other perks. We're having a lot of fun. We launched it last week, and it's been a really great few days getting to know a bunch of new people in the Discord.
Yep, over 1,000 people in there already, which is wild. So if you are an existing member, I know we don't have all of our members in here. If you're an existing member, you can sign up, or you can become a member. There's a link in the very top of our show notes in your podcast app of choice. If you click on that, you will be able to become a Relay FM member, supporting Connected, and you will get all of these wonderful perks. And this is the thing, like as Steven said, we're going to continue to put emphasis on membership, but not just in the sense of like we're going to talk about it more and want you to give us money. We are going to talk about it more. We do want you to give us money, but we're going to give you more in return. Like, the emphasis is not like it's staying as it was before, and we want to just get you to become a member if you hadn't been one.
Right.
Like, we're going to be spending a lot of time, probably over the next 6 months, adding more and more. So we spoke about Backstage, which is our members only behind the scenes podcast, which teaches you how to make a podcast of your own. That's one. And now the second thing is the Relay FM members Discord, and we're working on some exciting stuff that we're hoping to launch sometime in the summer maybe, or before the end of the year. We're not sure. But we're working on a lot of stuff that we want to be able to bring to you to make your support in us even more worth your while and time. Thank you if you sign up, and we'll see you in the Discord.
Can I tell you all about a struggle that I've been having with my iPhone?
Did you drop it again?
No.
You sure?
So I texted you all this, but I wanted to share it on the show because it's really odd, and I'm curious if any other people are having this experience. So I got the iPhone 11 Pro. It's on the public release of iOS, I guess 13 point whatever. What's current? I don't even know. 13 point whatever. Not the 13.5 beta is what I'm saying. About every fifth or sixth unlock, the color temperature of the screen is like green tinted. It's very strange. And then it clears up after a few seconds or even sometimes longer. I've had it hang out for like 30 seconds. And then all of a sudden it's like, clip, I'm back to my normal color temperature. I tried a couple of things. I tried turning off True Tone for a while. That didn't make any change. I tried turning off the one at nighttime, the night sight. What is it called?
Night shift.
Night shift. True Tone and Night Shift I've had on and off in various combinations. I can't seem to make this go away. It's very strange. I'm afraid that my phone is slowly dying or is just going to be green permanently one of these times. But that's kind of where I am with my iPhone life.
Honestly, have you dropped this phone?
Not recently.
Because I'm wondering if like something's gotten detached somewhere.
Someone in the Discord has the same thing.
Oh, really?
Someone in the Discord has the same thing. Yes. Not just me.
All right. Well, I guess you're part of a club now. Congratulations.
Yes. The Green Tent Club.
Uh-huh.
The GTC.
I don't know if you should really be that proud of it as to brand it, but like, I'm pleased for you both you and Zach, for having this issue.
That's for the class action lawsuit against Apple. You need a brand.
Oh.
So people blog about you and then...
Right. Should we, what do we call that? Tintgate?
Tintgate. Mm-hmm. Greengate.
Greengate?
Greengate.
Greengate?
I already have one gate to my name. I don't need a second.
I have no answer for you.
It's weird, though.
I'm assuming it's
weird.
because you drop your phone all the time and you don't have it in a case.
I've dropped this phone maybe twice.
Right.
Both times in a case. And not very far. Like, there's no damage to the phone. There's a little nick in the top corner of the leather case. That's it.
I don't remember. Remind me, is this the same 11 Pro that you got last year? Have you replaced this one?
I have not. This phone has survived.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Mm-hmm. Very proud of you.
It's pretty good. It's a good run. I feel better that other people are saying that they've seen this. So I'm just gonna keep an eye on it. Greengate.
Did you file a radar?
It's a lot of work.
If you remember, last time we started a series as we run up to WWDC. What I like now is knowing that our show, WWDC Week, is episode 300. I now know every time we start the show how many weeks we are away. So 294 means 6 more. So and now we're going to be doing another Anticipating WWDC. Federico came up with the topic this time, which is every year, Apple seems to do something that we like they do it. And like, oh, I'm so pleased you did this. But we did not expect them to do so. The always used example of this is third-party keyboards. That's the easiest one that everyone can appreciate. It's like, wow, like you did this, but no one expects it. Or SF symbols, so like the symbol thing. So basically developers have glyphs that they can choose from to put in their applications. It's like, this is great, but never expected you to do that. Or maybe even external storage via USB for iPad. Or maybe, I don't know if I'm going to be taking somebody's picks here, but like third-party watch faces would be one, right? We all want them, but don't expect Apple to do them. So we wanted to talk about, we all compiled some lists of things that we feel would fall into this category. This is not a list of predictions, because we consider these things unlikely. Not impossible, but unlikely. I was considering that potentially this is like a training ground for the Rickies, because these are, I guess, a bunch of things that we all want to see but think they won't do. So who knows? Maybe one of these could end up becoming our Ricky picks as we lead up to WWDC. So Federico, as the originator of the Anticipating WWDC topic today, would you like to go first?
My criteria for considering these potential features was what would be sort of crazy or unexpected or so surprising on iOS and iPadOS at this point that they might just do it because we could never see it happen. So my first one is actually something that I do not personally want, and I think it will be kind of weird to have, but I could also make the case for it. And that would be an option in settings on iPad to completely disable drag and drop for multitasking. So my idea would be that Apple is not ready to move away from the current multitasking system on iPadOS. I would be very surprised if we get a major iPadOS redesign in terms of managing windows and managing split view and slide over this year. That would be very welcome. I just think they're not ready for it yet. However, I think Apple is very much aware of the challenges and the difficulties that a lot of people have with using multitasking with the current drag and drop based system. And, we've seen the articles from John Gruber a while back had a really solid collection of link posts and articles about all the challenges with drag and drop and picking up icons and placing them on screen. A lot of people don't like the current system. And so I could see Apple make a global setting that says disable drag and drop for multitasking, only use drag and drop for content. And if they do that, they could implement something like context menus to replace the drag and drop infused multitasking system. So a setting to disable drag and drop entirely for multitasking so that you no longer have or can pick up icons to manage split view and slide over.
I have a drag and drop related question I would like to enter into the conversation at this point. How often do you two use drag and drop in general on the iPad?
For what? For
anything.
Never.
For content?
Yeah.
I do occasionally.
Because I want to say, just at this stage in the conversation,
I do all the time for like whenever I want to share a photo or a screenshot and I'm using the iPad and I want to share that like in messages, I use drag and drop.
Mm-hmm.
I also use it to attach photos to tweets and images to tweets because you can drag and drop in Twitter. And I guess I use it for files and mail. Like when I'm sending a message and it needs an attachment, I usually drag it from files or photos. But yeah, that's all I do.
So I feel like drag and drop gets in my way more than I use it, like for content.
Maybe they could disable drag and drop and for content, but leave it for multitasking.
I would prefer that.
Had my prediction backward. Maybe. Well, it could be one of the two, right? They could just a way to. Yeah, I can see.
Because I have had
maybe
this
drag and drop
problem
could be a setting
much more with 13.4. Because if I'm using a mouse or a trackpad, sometimes I want to say perform a gesture, so I click and try and drag something, and it tries to drag and drop it, right? Or like. If you're trying to select text with the old little blue guys, like where you're dragging it around, if an application doesn't have the new track, like to cursor support, so you have to like double click and move the little selectors, I'm finding myself accidentally grabbing and dragging the text more than I would want. So at the moment, I am getting more incorrect drag and drop than I am use out of drag and drop when I honestly forget that it's there a lot of the time. Like there are a lot of times where like I'm adding attachments to a mail message and I realize I've added 2 attachments via the document picker. And it's like, oh yeah, I could have drag and dropped that. Too late now. Like, because I never think to do it. And I feel like it's because I drag and drop more on the Mac because it's like a windowing based system. So there's like always stuff all over the place, right? So it's easy for me to get to a Finder window because there's usually a Finder window snuck behind something else. So I remember to do it. But on iOS, I'm so frequently in one app at a time, I kind of just get locked into the thinking of like I'm working in this one application. So I forget to drag and drop. Like I know it's there, I know how to do it, but I forget it. And so I don't use it very often, even though I know it's useful, right? Like, so for me, whilst I appreciate drag and drop as a thing and it has a lot of use, and maybe if like, and I'm not just making a joke now, if there was a shelf Federico's shelf idea,
I was about to say.
Oh, no.
then I would be
You would use it.
more.
You would use it a lot more.
I would use it
if
a
you had
lot
a
more.
shelf.
Like genuinely, like if there was like a bucket where I could just drag and drop stuff from all the time, like Finder,
that.
really. Like Finder kind of is that in a lot of ways for files and all kinds of stuff. But if there was something that I was able to drag and drop all kinds of stuff in out of all the time that was built into the system and not a third-party application, because again, that's still the main problem, I would maybe use it more. But at the moment, I find myself being more frustrated with drag and drop when I don't want it than getting use out of it when I do. So that was the aside I wanted to have on drag and drop.
Yeah. So, do you want to do this round robin style? Because I have a bunch of
No,
things
do your
that I
list.
wanna
Do
mention.
your list.
Okay, so my next pick is actually a shelf or a clipboard manager. They would essentially more like I'm really interested to see Apple actually make a clipboard manager to sort of defy conventions and be like, yeah, you can totally make a clipboard manager on iPadOS. That will require, of course, new. Well, it could go two ways, I guess. They could have actual background APIs to monitor system stuff in the background all the time, as it's possible on the Mac, or it could be a private thing that it's a private API that only Apple can use. In any case, I think a clipboard manager would be really useful to have. It's one of the features that I find myself appreciating about the Mac whenever I use my Mac Mini, and really missing on iPadOS, despite some of the alternatives that exist on the platform, but they're just not as good as an actual clipboard manager on the Mac. You know, being able to copy and find everything that you copied later. There are clipboard managers on iPad and iPhone, but they usually require you to manually save stuff and remember to save the things that you copy, either from a widget or from an extension or from a shortcut. So an actual clipboard manager or clipboard manager APIs would be really welcome.
I would love a clipboard manager on iPadOS. Like I really, really would.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if they do widgets on the home screen. Imagine, that would be so sweet.
Dude.
That would be so sweet.
That'd be awesome.
Next one, and this is, some people may say, oh no, they're never going to do that, but hear me out. The ability to run Swift code, so Swift inside shortcuts. And I can imagine to have like a little run Swift action that is sandboxed to shortcuts. And that would be kind of similar to how there's a precedent for this. In fact, you can run JavaScript in shortcuts, but it's limited to Safari. So there's an action called run JavaScript run JavaScript code that allows you to run arbitrary JavaScript in Safari when using a shortcut in the share sheet as an extension in Safari. And it would be pretty awesome to compensate for some of the more advanced features that Shortcuts is missing, like string manipulation or dealing with lists, or just, more advanced concepts and ideas and features that Shortcuts doesn't have. You could have a little Swift action that, if you know what you're doing, you can put in Swift code and you can read variables from preceding actions and you can output data as a variable to the following action. So run Swift inside shortcuts. What a crazy concept. That would be actually pretty sweet. Next on my list, and this is kind of crazy, they're probably never going to do it, but if they do it, you heard it here first, I guess. Markdown support in Apple Notes. I would really love to have Markdown in Notes in a way that I don't want to see raw Markdown syntax in Notes, but I want to be able to input Markdown and have it transform in real time into rich text. I want that, and I also want the ability to export a note from rich text to Markdown. Now, Apple is familiar with Markdown. They support Markdown, I believe, in Swift Playgrounds on the Mac or in Xcode on the Mac. In one of those two places, they do support Markdown. So they are aware of what Markdown is. I mean, who isn't? Mm-hmm. So I would love to have Markdown as an input option in Notes. There's right now, it's not really Markdown, but in Apple Notes, if you enter an asterisk and you leave a space, it automatically becomes a list, sort of like in Markdown. And I'm talking about that kind of real-time transformation, right? So imagine entering sort of like, I know that a lot of people don't like it, but the new visual editor in Slack, how if you enter the right syntax, the format changes in real time, so italics and bold text and that kind of stuff, I would love to have something similar in Notes. Finally, and this is kind of a weird one, which is, why I wanted to do this segment, the ability to customize the icons that you see in the iPhone status bar. So here's my thinking for this.
Wait, what? The what?
So the status bar on the iPhone?
Oh, what, like the top, the black bar at the top?
Yeah, the little ears.
Okay, the very bar, the what used to always be black. That's why I think of it as black. It's not anymore, but yeah.
Is the name not the status bar? The name is the status bar,
Yeah,
right?
but I just didn't remember that name.
Yeah, okay.
Do y'all remember in like iOS 6 it would get tinted? So like you'd be in like Twitter and the status bar would be tinted blue?
Maybe.
Oh my God, that was iOS 6, right?
Yeah, that was a weird...
Yeah, that was weird. iOS 6 was weird, man.
It really was.
It was really weird.
No, don't you have like fond memories of iOS?
I found an article on iMore about it. I'm going to put it in the show notes.
Although imagine being Scott Forstall, right? And knowing, getting the feeling that maybe you're on your way out at Apple and just living with the bang of a weird release. That's, fine. You want me out of Apple?
I don't think he knew he was on his way out, did he?
Oh
yeah, I guess because there's like a lot of conjecture about that point, right? That like Apple Maps was like the last nail in the coffin kind of thing.
Yeah.
He had already like spilled coffee on Tim accidentally before that.
Johnny had enough.
That's right. Parked in his parking spot.
iOS 6 was a weird release. Oh man, remember reminders in iOS 6?
Uh-huh.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Notes still has the paper texture.
Yeah. Oh wow. And podcasts.
Okay, moving on.
Okay. Anyway, so here's my thinking. If the notch is getting smaller in the iPhone 12, that likely means more space in the status bar. Now, more space, you could say, well, that gives Apple an opportunity to fit even more icons in there. Like if you have more space, now finally, for example, maybe your carrier information, the cellular carrier thing could always be in there. Or maybe the VPN icon, which right now you only see by swiping down and opening Control Center, which gives you like the expanded double row for the status bar. Maybe the VPN icon could go in there. But as I was thinking about this, I realized if they make it bigger, they probably don't want to stuff it full of icons like on Android. So why not give users the opportunity to customize the status bar, much like they can customize the controls for Control Center in settings? But imagine that for the status bar, because maybe I never want to have the battery in there, or maybe I don't care about the VPN icon, but maybe you do care about the VPN icon, and you would rather have that, the VPN information, than say how many bars of 4G you have. So the status bar has been a fixed element, untouched visual element since the iPhone's inception over 10 years ago. Maybe that could also become a customizable thing, just like Control Center. Maybe it could have a mix of elements that you cannot remove and others that you can.
Like the Mac.
Like the Mac or like Control Center again. Some elements you cannot remove from Control Center, but others you can customize. So maybe if the status bar gets larger and you have more room for icons, maybe Apple doesn't want to go with the obvious solution, which is let's just put more stuff in there. Maybe they're going to take that as an opportunity to say, well, I guess we could give users the choice to customize what they see. So I don't know. It would be a little strange, but it would be useful, I think.
It would be cool. Especially on the iPad. Like you could think all the things you could put in there. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, the iPad right now is basically useless.
Wait, do you mean in general?
The status bar on the iPad, it's so like, well, you got the time and like such.
I like the date. I like that the date's in
I like
there.
the date.
That's nice.
That's nice. But it's, you could use some additional information in there. I don't know. You know what I would love? A scrolling ticker of
stocks.
What music is playing. Music, not stocks. What was the name of that thing that people used to leave on their desktops for music?
iTunes?
And you could no, it was like this third-party widget. Bowtie or something like that. What was the name, Steven?
Is it
of
bow
article
tie?
You should.
It is bow
Is it
tie.
bow tie?
How did you
It is
pull
bow tie, right?
How did you pull that out of your memory? Wow.
That would be the kind of widget that if they do home screen widgets in iPadOS 14, I would love to have something like that.
This bow tie website, there is nothing that is dating it more than the red curtains.
Or the RDO support.
Oh, man.
Oh, maybe the audio. But like the red curtains, right? It's like front row or like photo booth, like...
Oh, man. Bow tie. So many memories. And you can make themes for bow tie. And there were so many custom themes around, like the super minimal themes or the super skeuomorphic themes. Yeah. Yeah, those were the times.
I have a list. It's not as big as Federico's list, but it's a list. System-wide customizable keyboard shortcuts on iPadOS. So I can make my own shortcuts. So like if I want to play or pause music, I can do that. If I want to run a Siri shortcut, I could do that with just a keyboard shortcut. Apple's so big on keyboards now, then give me the shortcuts. I want them. I want the shortcuts. My next one, I don't think I want this. I don't think it will happen.
That's the exact spirit of this segment. Go on.
But what about dashboard for iPadOS?
There you go.
If there's going to be widgets, then, maybe I want to bring up the widgets anywhere and not have to go back to the home screen. I could just bring up some, maybe I could go over to the left-hand side, like do a little slidey over from the left-hand side. There's my dashboard of widgets,
I mean, that's basically what we have on the phone.
Yep.
It's just full screen, you mean?
The grand return
Can
of
you imagine
dashboard.
that? Can you imagine
on
that?
iPadOS.
Like if maybe they renamed the home screen dashboard, like that feels like a very Apple thing to do.
This is the kind of thing that you say now.
Yeah.
We forget about it. They eventually rename it at WWDC, and we all scramble to find the point
When was
where
it that
Myke
Mike said
said
dashboard? But like these are also like the things that pop into my head, and I say them because if I'm right, I look like an oracle. But if I'm wrong, no one remembers because nobody cares. But if they call the home screen the dashboard, then Myke looks like a genius.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is the return of the magnifier for text selection on iPadOS.
Honestly, this is just a bug fix.
Yeah. I mean, we will all agree at this point that that's what it is, but it's like one of those things where it's like, I don't think they would do this, but it would be really good if they did it, and everyone would be happy. I will throw this one out there. I left my usual one out, which maybe I'll mention it. I left it out, but proper rich text support, but it's not actually on my list. I left it out. But the other one that I will always keep asking for forever is proper handling of audio on iPadOS. Mm-hmm. So I can record in one application and have an audio call in another application, which will enable me to be able to actually record podcasts the way that I want on my iPad. And then left turn shortcuts for the Mac.
Of course. If there was a time when Apple engineers would understand the limitations of the current audio system, you would think that during a lockdown, with everybody doing video and audio calls, they would probably get the sense of why the system needs to be redone.
Yep. I think a lot of this stuff, like the fact that, if you're on a video call and you go home, it cuts your video off.
So I saw somewhere on Twitter or Reddit, someone said, and I was not able to confirm this, that in the 13.5 beta...
I've seen this too, yeah.
This is no longer the case, but I've been too lazy to confirm this because it was late at night when I saw it, and I didn't want to go to the kitchen and grab my iPad.
Do you mean to FaceTime you? I'll just FaceTime you real quick.
I don't have my... Well, I do.
All right, let me FaceTime you.
Okay.
Real-time follow-up.
Hold on.
I wished I had some more things to say at this point that would enable for this to be like a more seamless transition while you two are arranging your FaceTime call, but I don't have anything else on the list.
I think, but here's the problem though. I think FaceTime was already whitelisted for this.
So we can try something else.
Try Zoom or Slack.
I don't have Zoom on my iPad.
Slack doesn't do video calls, does it?
Slack doesn't do video.
Oh, not on iOS, it doesn't.
And we are already on Skype.
I mean, you could use Discord.
Here, Federico, I will send you a Zoom link real quick. It's going to be great.
Oh my god, we're doing this on the show.
I think
we
this
are.
person said something. I wish we both saved this tweet now. That they said it was on a web browser anyway, so maybe that is of use to you.
All right, start a meeting. I'm just in a meeting by myself.
Here we go. I'm currently on the iPad OS 13.5 public beta, and one of my long-standing iPad OS gripes, the front camera turning off when sliding over into split screen with another application using the camera in Safari, is now gone. Is this a bug or a feature? And this is from Major K.
This is a lot of wrong terminology going on. Sliding over to split screen means a bunch of different things.
Well, yeah, and we've already established that nobody knows any of this stuff.
We are gonna test this right now. So, okay, Steven sent me a link. I tapped on it. So, again, Apple, please. Oh my God. Safari cannot open the page because the address is invalid. This is an error that I just saw in desktop class Safari on my iPad Pro. And now it just launched the App Store.
To download Zoom?
To download Zoom.
If you
it does
copy and
nothing.
paste it should work. Rather than clicking the link.
No, it gives me the same error.
Really?
Wow. Well, we tried.
No, we need to do this.
No, we need to do this now.
There has to be a way. There's got to be an app of some... Oh, no, it has to be in Safari, right? We've already established this.
Does it have to? I mean, I can download Zoom on the iPad.
Well, the guy said Safari.
What was the guy using, though?
I don't know.
Seriously, you cannot use Zoom in Safari on the iPad?
I don't know. I will read you the tweet again, Federico. I'm currently on the iPad OS 13.5 public beta, and one of my long-standing iPad OS gripes, which is the front camera turning off when sliding over or split screen with another application when using the camera in Safari, is now gone. Is this a bug or a feature?
Okay, I'm just gonna try and join with the Zoom app, Steven.
Okay.
It says waiting. This meeting is not valid.
Oh,
Steven, what are you doing?
Oh, sorry. I closed it because it didn't work.
I knew it was your fault.
All right, hang on. Let me add you again.
Maybe that's why it wasn't working in Safari. You're doing your
If
crazy
you want to support
shenanigans
this
over there.
high-quality content, become a Relay FM member today.
Yes, Myke is right, as always.
It's a hashtag. All right, I sent you another link. I'm in Zoom.
Okay, so I'm gonna try this again.
Okay.
Please enter your name.
It's,
I'm gonna call myself
Federico.
Ticci.
Mm-hmm.
Continue. I agree. Change virtual background.
Nah, I want
no.
to see where you are.
I'm in my bedroom, Steven.
So am I.
Okay.
I've admitted you to the
Access
room.
the microphone. Hi.
Hey, I see you.
Hi. Hi.
What's up?
Hi. So, to hear others, please join audio.
Yeah, we don't need audio for this because we can hear each other on
Cancel.
Skype.
Yes.
So if you swipe over, I'll tell you what happens.
Okay. You ready?
Yes.
It's not doing anything. I cannot use Zoom in split view.
Your video is paused.
So the guy's wrong, Myke. I knew it.
Again,
Okay.
just to state,
I'm using slide over.
he
I'm
never
using
said
slide
in the
over.
Zoom app, though. He said in Safari. He was very clear about that.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, we tried. Bye, buddy.
bye. So we tried. The guy was wrong, as most people are on Twitter, honestly.
I don't feel it's fair to say he's wrong. You have not recreated the testing environment that Major
Well,
K...
you should have sent more details then. Should have said,
I told you.
Don't get in touch without...
He said in Safari, using the camera in,
in Safari, which service?
I don't know. That's not important for
No,
him
it
to
is.
tell you. Could be anything. Maybe it is possible to get Zoom to work, but you just haven't found a way yet.
Maybe. I've got a list of things.
All right. Forgot we
ready?
were doing this. Yep, carry on.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with my smaller ones. Health app on the iPad and Mac. Be great to see that data elsewhere. It's already in iCloud, right? Just sync it around to my stuff. It's fine.
Is it in iCloud?
Yes. Or it's in your iCloud backup, at least, I think.
Right.
If I have two-factor on, I'd like the option to see that dashboard on my iPad or Mac. I understand
Yeah.
the data is mostly coming to it from my phone, but it'd be nice to see those charts and stuff on a bigger display. Handoff for music between Mac and iOS, or some sort of awareness of my state. So if I'm playing something in my truck and I get in, I want to play it on my Mac, some way for me to, or for Apple Music to know what I was just listening to and just pick it up where I was.
This is so key.
That was a thing back in the iPod days. iTunes and iPod.
If you're listening to Spotify on an Echo and then open the iOS app, it says, "Would you like to continue listening here?" And then you just do, and then it just seamlessly transitions.
So do that, Apple. Cross-app VIP system for iOS, or I could say, you know what? I do want Slack and Twitter and Mail and iMessage notifications for Myke and Federico, but I don't want to hear from other people. You know.
So you would want like some kind of contact API that apps could tie into, right?
A deep and open
framework.
Contact notification API. Rethinking of Notification Center / Today View on the Mac. It's mostly useless.
So bad.
And a bunch of apps don't even support widgets. Like, just get rid of the widgets or just do something. Make it something that people want to use.
Like Dashboard.
Yes. Bring Dashboard back. Just kidding. But my big one is a rebuilt Messages app for the Mac with as close to feature parity with iOS as possible. I understand the apps and stuff may not be there, although maybe they could be with Catalyst. But, you know, the features that we have on iOS, like, I don't know if you guys ever tried searching for messages on the Mac. It's real bad. Like, it's just, it's they've built so much on the foundation of what was there before with iChat and with the early Messages app, and there's so much stuff the iOS version can do, the Mac version can't. And Messages is a really important part of Apple's services strategy. It's one of the things that keeps people in the ecosystem. And doing that primarily from a Mac is a pretty secondary experience compared to on mobile. So I'd really like for them to bring that up to par.
Steven, this is a great list. Although there's a problem. There's not enough weird.
Yeah.
Give me some weird. Give me some weird.
These are all really good things which do fit the unlikely area, but like they're sensible.
I'm gonna count to 3, and you're gonna say the first thing that pops in your mind. 1, 2, 3, go.
Finder looks like tot. Dots instead of labels.
See?
There we go.
You
did it. You did it.
Myke, what's worse? People who say Siri shortcuts. People who, when a new beta comes out, say fresh bits on the developer website.
Definitely worse to say fresh bits. Has that happened while we've been recording?
No.
Oh.
No.
You're just continuing to think of new ones?
Yeah.
Fresh bits. Fresh bits doesn't make any sense. There is no freshness state for software. Like, it's not like, it doesn't rot. It doesn't go old.
This is the hill Myke dies on.
Yes, this one.
Fresh bits.
This one. And the only one.
Okay.
It's my only opinion.
The only one. Okay. So, Steven, thank you. This is a great list, plus some weird at the end. Very, very well done.
Glad I could help. This episode of Connected is brought to you by Pingdom from SolarWinds. While you've been listening to this podcast, how would you know if your website had gone down? Would you know if customers couldn't click buy now or access your content? You could stumble across the problem by luck, or maybe someone would email you or send you a tweet, but that's not good because you need a system. You need a system that is telling you that everything is running smoothly on your website, and, way more importantly, when it's not. Pingdom is that system. It detects around 13 million outages every month. That's more than 400,000 outages a day. Pingdom helps keep the sites that you love online, including one little podcast network called Relay FM. So it doesn't matter if you're a startup or you're in a Fortune 500 company, you need alerts about critical website issues. Pingdom lets you customize how you're alerted depending on the severity of the outage. Plus, they track and analyze things like a website's loading time, so you can see what's affecting the user experience. If you have a site of any size, you need Pingdom. And Pingdom has a no-fuss approach to getting started. All they need is the URL that you want to monitor, and they take care of the rest. Go to pingdom.com/relayfm right now for a 14-day free trial with no credit card required. And when you sign up, use the code CONNECTED at checkout to get a huge 30% off your first invoice. Our thanks to Pingdom from SolarWinds for the support of the show and Relay FM.
AirPods Studio. That's HeadPods. There's a couple of rumors, a couple of pieces of information, which are going to condense into one topic. Some came from Front Page Tech via 9to5Mac, and the other from 9to5Mac directly. So Apple's upcoming over-ear headphones are expected to be called AirPods Studio, which I think Steven suggested on an episode recently.
Year of Steven.
Yeah, you still don't understand what that means. You just need to stop it.
You pick the right things for the wrong episode. You gotta come up, pick the actual predictions for when we do the predictions, not during the year, because that does not qualify for Year of Steven. Also, you've been saying Year of Steven for the past couple of years. Mm-hmm. It's not how it works.
It's a decade of Steven. 4 more years. 4 more. AirPods Studio. Tell us about it, Myke.
$349 is apparently going to be the price.
I think it's going to be more than that.
Really? Do you? For headphones? That's a lot of money for headphones.
$349. $399.
All right. $398. Okay, so launching later this year, probably with the iPhone, you would assume. That is my conjecture. The rumor did not say this, but when else would they launch it? And it's going to have a couple of interesting features via some sensors. One kind of category is ear detection, so pausing when you remove from your ears, like AirPods, but also neck detection. So if you take the headphones off and put them on your neck, it doesn't put them to sleep, it just kind of holds it. Right? So
hang on. I have a question about detection. Okay. So we have ear detection. Mm-hmm. We have tongue detection in Memoji, right? Remember that slide? I have a screenshot of it, which is tongue detection.
I don't like where this is going.
Neither do I, but carry on.
Giant letters. We have neck detection. It's like,
go on.
Do you have an end to this point, or is that it?
Punchline. What's your punchline? Go on.
The punchline was tongue detection, but I kind of blew through it. So
this is a terrible way.
Do you understand how jokes work?
Have you ever told a joke before?
We have ear detection. We have tongue detection. We have neck detection. Tongue detection, am I right? So, if I could go back to the actual information, because I wasn't finished. So, neck detection.
I'm sorry. I got excited about tongue detection.
You did. It's okay.
Yeah.
So, keeping the headset actually turned on, but kind of just waiting for you to put it back on your ears again, so it would immediately kick back in. So this is, I would assume if you didn't have it on at all, it would probably go into a lower power state at that point. I'd assume similar to when you put your ear, your headphones, your AirPods down, or they're completely both out of your ears, right? So there's these different states between ear and neck detection. It detects left and right ear to route stereo sound correctly. There is no defined left or right, apparently, according to these rumors. I think this is amazing. And at this point, I was like, I hate that I have to do this with headphones. Just at that point, I was like, oh, I'm so mad about left and right that I have to get it right every time. I don't know how on earth you would do this, but maybe some accelerometers and gyroscope type deal could work it out. Obviously, both active noise cancelling and transparency modes would be built in. I guess you would assume that the noise cancelling would be more powerful in these, because it's much bigger, right? The headphones are much bigger, and you would want that anyway, I would feel, from over-ear headphones. You'd want it to be even better, and that would be kind of amazing if it was even better, because I really love the AirPods Pro noise cancelling. And also custom equalizer settings for iOS and macOS. Federico, as the resident headphone audiophile, I would say, of the show, what is your opinion on this set of rumors?
The more we hear about these AirPods Studio headphones, the better they sound, and that makes me concerned.
Oh.
Because all of this sounds incredible. Yes, neck detection, genius. No left and right, genius. I've always wanted this to, it's one of those things that you read about it and you realize, I can't believe that nobody's done this before. Yes, I want my headphones to behave like this. But then, you consider everything, and they just sound too good to be true. And I don't know, are we going to get all of this? And, the magnetic attachments, the interchangeable parts, and the super, high quality audio, and now neck detection and ear detection. I want all of this to be correct. I want this to be the product. I want to be cautious with, getting my hopes up too much. But I mean, this sounds incredible, honestly. Like I would totally buy these headphones. And especially like the combination of having those interchangeable parts. So if you remember the rumor that we discussed, that Apple was making this magnetic design that allows you to change the ear cups of these headphones via simple magnetic attachments. So the theory goes you could have like ear cups for more comfortable listening and maybe like a sports mode where you could change the parts or you could change the colors. So that combined with the smart detection for whether you're wearing these headphones around your neck or the orientation that you're wearing them. I want all of this personally. It's the kind of stuff that I feel like Apple could do well, because we've seen it happen before with AirPods, right? I don't know. I want the rumors to be right.
How do you think these will charge?
With the cable.
You don't think they'll have any wireless charging in them?
Headphones are kind of weird to charge wirelessly because the way that you fold them, they're never stable enough. So I could see maybe placing them in a case that charges.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think they will have a charging case?
If they do support some kind of charging mode that does not require you to plug a cable into the headphones, that's going to be the way that they go. I mean, like the case charges the
headphones.
I
was assuming that like they will have a lightning port on them.
Yeah.
But there is also a case you can buy which has a battery in it as well. I can't imagine them.
I think the case comes with the headphones.
Really?
No.
That seems like a
for
lot.
For $400 it should.
Well, maybe not for $349. Maybe the charging case is an extra $50.
I wonder too if it's USB-C or Lightning or something that you could do like you can other headphones in this class, where if the battery's dead, you can still listen to them via USB while they charge.
USB-C would make sense if you were to use these headphones with devices that are not iPhones.
Yeah.
Because you could easily buy these headphones and use them with your Android phone, for example, via USB-C.
But you could do that with Lightning to USB-C cable anyway.
Sure, it just would be easier to have USB-C to USB-C.
Definitely. I mean, all Apple devices should charge by USB-C. I mean, I think we can all agree on that anyway at this point, because the USB-C cable is everywhere and it's about the same size and would be amazing. I want everything to charge by USB-C now, but that's neither here nor there for the time being because the next iPhone's not going to have it. I'm really intrigued by this product. I definitely want them, and I see a place in my life where they will be useful. I just don't know if that place is going to be possible this year, because I only use over-ear headphones when I'm traveling. Otherwise, I just use AirPods, and like for most of the cases where I would want to use any kind of headphone or earphone, I would pick AirPods for like home use. Like I can't imagine wanting to use the over ears unless the over ears are like so much better, right? That like I would choose something that's maybe a little less comfortable. I don't know. We'll see. I am really intrigued about this product. Like it is a product that I definitely want, but it's like I just don't know if I will have the immediate use case for it when it becomes available. But who knows at this point? We'll see. Definitely feels like a September thing to me, though. Like that you would want to announce this alongside the iPhone. Like that feels like the right time for this kind of product.
Yeah.
Plus, like definite, really strong holiday gift. People are going to really want these, I think.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, AirPods did that. EarPods, when they switched those to that design, it was in the fall, I think, with a new iPhone or new iPods or something. So that all makes a lot of sense to me. I'm still very curious. I think either Apple will go out of their way to like really explain the difference between this and Beats products, or they're not going to mention it at all.
They will not mention it at all. Because why would they?
I just wonder if that will lead to confusion. Like, what separates us from what Beats can do? I don't know. Like a very, very.
It doesn't need to. It's just another product. Like it's another company. It's another brand. People buy Beats because they want Beats, and I don't think that's gonna change anytime soon. Like Apple have never felt the need to explain why AirPods are different to Beats X. Like,
True.
They've never even shown Beats products on a stage, right?
No, they did at some point when they said, oh, it has this new wireless chip. And then they were like, oh, and this Beats product is going to have it too. But that's as far as they've gone.
Right. But, like, you know, I don't think it would be necessary to show it off against Beats because, you know, the Beats is still a money-making product. Like, they wouldn't want to show one off against the other. I feel like. I just think it would just be like, this is what this product does, and that's that. Because I can imagine them giving the exact same technology to a Beats product, either at the same time or a time in the not too distant future afterwards, because why not? It's the same as they've done with all of their headphone and earphone initiatives so far. Like, there will be a new Beats product which has Beats styling and most of the same features, like I would assume. Like, why would they not do that? They've done that consistently to this point, right?
Yeah. This just feels like a more into the Beats territory than they've gone before. That's all.
Yeah, but I could imagine, like, you know, these will be really premium, high-end materials, and then there will be like a Beats version, which is all plastic and will be colorful and different, and then maybe a little bit cheaper and have similar-ish. You know, it's like, you know, why do they have MacBook Pros and MacBooks? Like, on iPads and iPad Pros. It's just like different types of people want those products. They want things that work and look and price differently, and kind of they just happen to luck out with a second brand as opposed to needing to come up with a bunch of brands of their own.
This episode of Connected is also made possible by Hover, one of the show's longest-running sponsors. When you have that big idea, where do you go? For a ton of people, Hover is that first big step because a business or a project, it starts with a domain name. And Hover has over 300 domain name extensions to choose from. So you're not just stuck with .com or .net. You can just go wild. No matter what you want to build, there's a domain name waiting for it. Hover has excellent technical support to answer any questions you may have, and they're dedicated to getting you online, not upselling you. This means that Hover has a really clean UX and UI when you go through the process of buying a domain or setting up your DNS records. It's all very clear, very easy to understand what's going on. They have free Whois privacy, so the bad guys don't get your information. And there are monthly sales on popular top-level domains. So it's easy to see why Hover is the popular choice for people starting businesses. I spent some time earlier this year sorting out a website and some other stuff for the parent-teacher organization in my kids' elementary school. And their domain was some other provider, but then their DNS was somewhere else. And one of the things we did was brought it all under one roof at Hover. So I moved the domain name in, which Hover makes very easy, set up all the DNS there, which is all very clear and simple. And now if we need to change anything, it's all in one glorious home. We know that you like intuitive user experiences and things that just work straight out of the box, so you will appreciate Hover. Out of those top-level domains, one that stands out is .art. So if you are an artist or you want to create a website to showcase your work, that could be a fun way to stand out from the crowd. You can also get a custom domain name for each individual piece of art you create and have a catalog that provides descriptions and details on every piece and makes your art easily accessible from around the world. Buy your domain and start using it today. Go to hover.com/connected and get 10% off any new purchase. That URL one more time is hover.com/connected. Make a name for yourself with Hover. Our thanks to Hover for the support of the show and Relay FM. Federico, you have been swimming in the sea of DEVONthink. How's that going?
It's complicated. It's exhausting and complicated, but potentially good in the end. So I've been slowly but surely finding my way around DEVONthink and setting up things the way that I like them and thinking ahead, like how can I kind of set this up in a way that will scale this summer when I will be working on this big project that is the annual iOS review, and what are the things that I would like to improve from the setup that I've been essentially using for the past 2 years. Mm-hmm. So, okay, the first thing that I want to mention is that soon after doing last week's episode of Connected, I immediately forgot about the global inboxes and regular inboxes and databases. Like I forgot about, like you explained it to me. And in that moment, I understood what it meant. But once that moment passed, I forgot again. So a few days ago, I was struggling to figure out where two files I had saved in a database were, because I couldn't find them anymore. And it took me a while, but I figured it out. So basically, I created a new database called iOS 14 Review in DEVONthink. And I saved two items into the inbox of that database. However, and I was using the app on the iPad, so DEVONthink to go on the iPad. When I tapped on that database in the sidebar, that database was empty. And I couldn't understand why, because it had a badge indicator that said 2 next to the name. But then when I tapped on the database, there were 0 items, not 2 of them. And that happens because the inbox of a database is not shown in the database itself, which is very confusing to me, because the inbox is part of a database.
Yeah.
However, if you tap on the database, it's not there. So it's not like email because you told me it's like email, and yes, it sort of is. The problem is that if you were to continue this email comparison, when you open a mail account in the mail sidebar, you still see the inbox for that specific account. Whereas the inbox of a database in DEVONthink can only be seen in the standalone inboxes view. So basically, the lesson that I learned is that I never want to save anything into the inbox. I always want to save data directly into a database where I can create groups, or I can save files into the main root view of a database. So I dislike this inbox structure because when I create a database, I would expect the database to also contain the inbox. And it does, technically, but not so visually speaking, in at least in the iPad app. I don't know if things are different on the Mac, but this is how it works on the iPad, and it's very confusing. So I will not be saving anything into the inbox anymore. Now, I've been thinking about ways to save web pages. We talked about this. I will soon have the need to archive web pages in DEVONthink. And those web pages, ideally, I will have to annotate and reference as I'm writing the iOS 14 review. And there's a couple of ways to go about this. You could use the Clipper, so the DEVONthink extension on iOS and iPadOS. This extension you can use from the share sheet, and when you tap it, it gives you a bunch of options. You can rename an item, and you can choose the format. You can save as a web archive, you can save as a PDF, you can save as a clutter-free markdown view of the web page, which is kind of neat. And then you can choose the group. You can choose where to save it, and you save it directly from Safari or any other app that you're using. The problem there is that when you use the extension, in my case, from Safari, it saves that item into the database inbox, which again, I do not want. I want to be able to save stuff directly into a database, skipping the inbox, ideally going into a specific folder, or maybe a folder that I get to choose. However, this behavior is not possible in the DEVONthink extension, which by default always goes into the inbox. So I remembered that years ago, when I last tried DEVONthink, I had created a bunch of DEVONthink shortcuts that were still available on the Mac Stories Shortcuts Archive. So it is with great pleasure, guys, that I can announce that I made a new shortcut that I have already posted on the Mac Stories Shortcuts Archive. However, I have not talked about this shortcut anywhere else, so it is, for the time being, an exclusive for connected listeners.
Whoa,
so
huge.
Big time.
App Stories gets Craig Federighi. We get a DEVONthink shortcut.
Yeah. So
who's winning now? Am I right?
Take that, John.
God. So It's called Devon Web. So I'm really good with names, if I do say so myself.
That's good.
So the idea is that in a web page, you can run this shortcut and it'll ask you, do you want to save this web page as a web archive or as a PDF? And the difference is that you can, before running the shortcut, you can create your own list of your favorite databases and your favorite folders. And when the shortcut runs, you can pick the folder when you want the new item to be saved into. So I created folders for like Siri and shortcuts and design, all the features that I tend to cover in my reviews. And when the shortcut runs, you can pick the folder and the item will be saved in the format of your choosing, in the folder of your choosing. So it's the kind of behavior that I want. Of course, DEVONthink does not support modern shortcuts with parameters. So the shortcut needs to use X callback URL to launch DEVONthink. Well, first it launches shortcuts, then it launches DEVONthink, then it goes back to shortcuts, which is somewhat unfortunate.
That's a blast from the past right there.
It's a very, very much so. Eventually, I hope that the DEVONthink folks will be able to support modern shortcuts with parameters, skipping the need to open and launch DEVONthink entirely. But right now, this is the way that it works. Now, I have a system that works. I understand, for now at least, how inboxes behave with databases. And I kept thinking, what do I want to save web pages as web archives or as PDF documents? Now, the web archive has a big advantage in that it's a 100% high fidelity replica of the original web page you're looking at, but it's entirely offline. So the web archive downloads images, the CSS, JavaScript assets, and it creates an offline copy of the page. And you open the file, you open the web archive. It's for that reason, web archives can be relatively heavy files. You can make a web archive and it's like 20 megabytes. And that's because it depends on how many resources it downloads from the original page. But you look at it and it looks exactly like the page you're looking at in Safari. You can select text and you can follow links. You can do anything that you can do in Safari.
And it's all local, right? So
and it's all local. It's all local and
these
offline.
files may be kind of big because they have all the images and everything in them.
But it's all local. That's awesome. However, for my purposes, for what I need to do for this review, web archives cannot be annotated because, you cannot annotate web pages unless you use some plugins or stuff like that. They are meant to let you download the page. They're not meant to be annotated and modified. That's what PDFs do. And DEVONthink has pretty good support for annotating and modifying PDFs inside the app. You can add highlights. You can add comments. You can have a grid view for pages inside a PDF, and you can search inside the PDF, and you can have a table of contents. All the usual suspects are here when it comes to PDFs. However, PDFs are not necessarily a complete replica of the page you're looking at. Sometimes you convert a page to PDF and it looks slightly different from the page that you're looking at in Safari. And that happens because in the conversion to PDFs, something happens. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but I think it tends to be differences between the WebKit engine that shows you the page in Safari and the WebKit engine that is responsible for converting that to PDF. But sometimes those PDF pages, they lose some of the elements of the original web page in Safari. A good example, if you go to the human interface guidelines from Apple and you save that to PDF using DEVONthink or using shortcuts in my case, you do get the content. However, the sidebar for navigating sections does not get converted to PDF. So you lose the sidebar and something funky happens with the iPhone screenshots that Apple uses. The image inside the iPhone frame gets smaller than the iPhone itself. It's kind of weird. I don't know what happens, but it happens. So it's not a high fidelity replica of the page. It's a PDF version of that. The more I think about this, the more I keep thinking that web archives are conceptually ideal for me, because I love the fact that they look exactly like the original web page. However, PDF documents give me more freedom in terms of annotating and extracting information out of those documents. And not only that, but also if I were to archive these web pages as PDF, I could use a combination of apps to compensate for the features that are missing from DEVONthink. Primarily, I'm thinking of this sort of setup where I could archive developer pages from apple.com in DEVONthink as PDF documents. And because DEVONthink supports or will soon support opening files, individual files in place in other apps, I could use the app called Highlights on my iPad to browse to the DEVONthink location in files, open the PDFs that I saved, and rely on Highlights' superior annotation tools. Highlights is really good because it allows you to, for example, if you have a long document and you have a bunch of highlights in the document, like a bunch of passages of text that you highlighted, in Highlights you can have a split view for that document. So you can have the document on the left side and a summary of all your annotations and highlights on the right side of the screen.
You mean multi-window?
No, I mean in-apps lowercase split view. And it's very good. And it even lets you export all those annotations in a bunch of different formats, including Markdown and I believe HTML and even OmniFocus and DEVONthink formats. So thanks to because DEVONthink shows you the database structure of DEVONthink on the iPad, you can browse in the Files app because DEVONthink is also a file provider. And thanks to Files, I could use DEVONthink as a document repository and use additional apps for specific features. In this case, Highlights. So I could use Highlights plus DEVONthink to store everything in DEVONthink, sync everything with DEVONthink, but then use Highlights to come in and take care of the annotations and export those annotations. This is the kind of workflow that I would be really interested in trying this summer. There's a second part to this point. I believe, or at least I hope, that DEVONthink will soon support opening folders in place. So if they do this, if they add support for, say, letting you open a DEVONthink folder via the files picker in, say, IA Writer, right? This is the files bookmarks technology with open in place that we've talked about many times before. If that was possible, this is not possible yet, but if it became a feature of DEVONthink, I could see a scenario where the entire review is stored in DEVONthink, backed up to multiple places, of course, and IA Writer accesses the DEVONthink folder for the review and access my text editor on top of DEVONthink. So DEVONthink has a centralized location for research material, markdown documents, and even screenshots. And if they do this right, I could have these markdown chapters for my review that reference local files stored in DEVONthink that would show up in the markdown preview, both in DEVONthink and in IA Writer. So the same syntax, the same file structure, a centralized location, and I get to choose what is the text editor that I want to use, what is the PDF viewer that I want to use, but everything is inside DEVONthink. And of course, I have my shortcuts for backing up the whole thing to multiple places, including iCloud Drive and Dropbox. This is all wishful thinking, basically, because right now this feature does not exist yet, but I'm very optimistic that it will. And I am very intrigued by this idea of using open in place for individual files, so PDF documents that I could view and annotate and process in Highlights, and the review itself, which could be stored in DEVONthink, but opened in place inside IA Writer. And in my experience, open in place works well. for folders. I've had like a working copy folder open in IA Writer as an external location for months. Nothing happened. It works very well, even across system updates and device reboots. The external folder remains pinned to the IA Writer sidebar. It works really well. So I'm thinking about this because I'm very intrigued by the idea of having DEVONthink as this centralized location where I can reference local screenshots and research material and then use IA Writer on top of it. And today, IA Writer got updated to version 5.5. I have a link on Mac Stories, but basically they now let you highlight text inside of a Markdown document, and the text actually gets highlighted in yellow. So this is perfect for me because I've always wanted to have this kind of feature. It used to be possible in Scrivener years ago. I wrote one of my reviews. I believe it was the iOS 10 review in Scrivener as rich text. And one of the great features of Scrivener is that it lets you highlight text inside the text editor. And so I would use highlights as a way for me to mark up certain passages of the review that maybe needed to be looked at again in the future because maybe there was a missing feature or a bug that I needed to reevaluate later in the summer. Now I can do this in IA Writer without giving up on Markdown because you just need to enter 2 equal signs and you can highlight text. So basically what I'm thinking of is an evolution of the current setup that I have. So I will keep using IA Writer. I will keep storing the review as Markdown, but I'm considering DEVONthink as a centralized location for everything. However, they need to support a bunch more features first, because all of this right now, the only part that's possible, I think, at least in the current beta of DEVONthink that is up on TestFlight, is to open files in place, but folders not yet. So, and yes, web pages I will probably store as PDF instead of web archives because I want to be able to annotate them, and because I really want to use highlights because I really like that app, and I really like the idea of seeing the document and annotations on screen at the same time.
Yeah, I too have been dealing with sort of what format do I save things into. A lot of the times I will do PDF. But one thing I've done the last week is I've added a bunch of RSS feeds into DEVONthink. So DEVONthink can basically import the contents of an RSS feed and then keep them locally. So I added all my podcasts so I could like search across the show notes and show links really quickly. I also added a couple of specific RSS feeds from 512. So I have like K-Base of the Week and Apple History, those feeds. So I can have a quick view of what I've done before, and if I
how does it get saved? Like, what is the format when you import an RSS feed?
So when you save, when you bring in an RSS feed on the Mac app, you can change the format that you want. I left mine on automatic, and I got HTML documents. So there's no anything in the article is there, but there's no Chrome of the site around it, and it's just text, HTML text, so I could copy and paste if I wanted to.
Okay.
But in terms of research materials, I mostly do PDF. I haven't done much with Web Archive really in a long time. When I tried it last, probably years ago, like really weird things would happen. Like if you had some sort of video or audio embedded on the page, the player would like cover up other content, and it was kind of buggy. And maybe it's better now, but PDF isn't always the right option. A lot of the times it is. A lot of the stuff that I pull is like really old stuff where PDF it super easily handles it, right? Because the web, some of the stuff I pull off the web is not as complicated as something like the HIG that Federico mentioned, but it gives you options, which is what's cool. And I'm glad to hear that they are doing more with the iOS app. One question I had for you, Federico, is do you feel strongly that the review and the research should live in the same place?
I don't feel strongly, but It's basically what I've already been doing. So I know that a lot of people think that this may sound complex, but this is how the review has been done for the past couple of years. Only the location was different.
Right.
It was iCloud Drive. But yes, for the past couple of years, the markdown files and the screenshots were all stored and tagged in iCloud Drive, and I used the local file references in IA Writer to sort of embed those local files into the review so that I could preview them and take a look at the review as it would appear on Mac Stories, because I have a custom preview theme, without having to upload the images to my CDN. The images I upload to the CDN all in one session. Like I have a script that I sit down a couple of hours, an afternoon, and I upload like 300 images all at once. But during the summer, they are actually local files in iCloud Drive.
Yeah, because they change over time, right? Apple tweaks a design or an app changes.
Yeah.
You don't want to be uploading those to your server repeatedly.
Exactly. So I store local references for that reason.
Okay.
And over time, if a feature changes, I can replace the local screenshot instead of having to upload multiple times. So this is basically the main idea would be to change the location from iCloud Drive to DEVONthink, but still the same suite of apps. And really the bigger change would be what I do about research, because really for research, I didn't have a system last year or 2 years ago. And I'm starting to feel disorganized there. But I'm still going to use IA Writer, and I'm still going to use my all the features that I talked about last year, and I'm still going to use Scriptable to and shortcuts to upload my screenshots. So nothing is changing about the writing process. Primarily, I'm considering a location change and DEVONthink for research, because for research, I didn't really have any system.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. I think you could totally leave the Markdown where it was and just use DEVONthink for like a research tool. I don't think you necessarily have to mix them, but
no, I could do that. And in fact, if they don't add support for opening place, or if I run some tests and I'm not sure about it, that's what I'm gonna do. For sure, I'm gonna keep storing the review in iCloud Drive and IA Writer, and use DEVONthink for PDF documents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for the update.
Sure, I will follow up at some point again. Which reminds me, how many days left in the trial? 99 hours left.
Uh-oh.
So
TikTok.
this is now an hourly countdown.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
You got some
boy.
decisions to make over the next couple of days, huh?
So by the next episode, I will have made a decision.
By the next episode, you will have signed up and not made a decision.
We'll see about that.
That's how I think this is going to go.
All right. I think that does it for this week's episode of Connected. If you want to find links to all the stuff we spoke about, they're in your podcast player. Or you can find them at relay.fm/connected/294. While you're on that webpage, there's lots of fun activities you can partake in. You can send us an email with feedback or follow-up. You can become a member to show your support for the show directly. You can also find us over on Twitter. Myke is there as IMYKE, and Myke is the host of a bunch of shows here on Relay. You can find Federico on Twitter as Viticci, Viticci. He is the editor-in-chief of MacStories.net. You can find me online as ISMH, and you can find my writing at 512pixels.net. Until next time, gentlemen, say goodbye.
Arrivederci.
Cheerio.
Adios.